Hey there. Hope you're doing well. Welcome to Snowpal's Polyglot Software Development Podcast. In this podcast, we're going to take a look at one of the features we implemented on our mobile app not too long ago. We're just going to talk about what it takes to implement a feature. So if you're either a recent college graduate who's new to building software, or you've done this a bit, I want to know just how another startup, another team does it, or maybe you're doing web apps, or you're an API developer who hasn't done mobile work and specifically before, and you kind of you have some qualms about getting started with building mobile apps. Maybe it helps you, because I'm just going to make this feature, explain what we've done, make it as simple as I possibly can. So without further ado, let's get started. I'm going to share my screen here. A second. Okay, so this is our app. Again, if you haven't downloaded our app, just go to snowpal.com. If you're on, you can go to your browser, whether you're an iPhone user or an Android user. It'll take you here, and then you can click the download at the top. If you're on an iPhone, it'll take you to the App Store. If not, it'll take you to the Play Store, and then you should be able to use. I mean, we have a responsive app as well, but the native mobile app, actually, you won't obviously use it because it, for obvious reasons. We have a subset of the features that we support in the responsive version, but once we built the mobile app, we've added about, like, you can do 70 to 75% of what you can do on the web for the most part. If my numbers are not wrong, just take that with a grain of salt. You can do that on our mobile app, which is extremely rich in features. We only want to talk about not tiny, but one feature, which is just a drop in the ocean. This is with respect to notifications. So if you download our app after going to snowpal.com, and then you start using it to manage your projects at work, at school, in college, at home, for your kids, for yourself, and whatnot, you'll find, I'm quite certain you'll appreciate the value that it brings to the table. But in addition to allowing you to managing projects, there is also other things you could do on the app. Like, there is an entire education platform that lets you both publish your courses, monetize as a course creator by collaborating with us and having us host your courses, and consuming courses that we've published, either as creators at Snowpal or through other creators who've published on our platform. But we don't want to talk about any of that in this podcast. What we are actually going to talk about is a feature called system notifications. Now, when a number of different things happen in the system, notifications get sent out. You're going to get it on your mobile app and on your web app, and you can customize the notifications to a fair extent. There's two categories of notifications at the highest level. One is notifications because somebody shared a resource like a key or a block or a pod with you. They created you're working on a project on CS105. I'm just making up this course number. Maybe it's advanced calculus. You're doing a project or an assignment. It's a team project. You're working with a couple of team members. You create this content, the key, or in our case, once you get into a key, you create a block. You share a block or a pod with your fellow team members. They will get notified saying, hey, you know what, Krish shared this advanced calculus course of the project with you. Let's start collaborating. And you can do all of the collaboration on our platform. That's one type of notification, which is a user initiating that notification, like a human initiated notification. That's the broad category number one. The second category is a system notification, where we generate notifications and send it to communicate with you as a mobile app or a web user. These are push notifications. So they work like any other push notification. I'm going to talk about one of them here. We implemented a feature, the system notifications feature, because we only had we had there's two categories. One is the user notifications, and the second category is system notifications. But within system notifications, I could even further subclassify them into uh, notifications for activities happening in the system. Like, hey, there is a due date. You set a due date on a resource, and your due date, it's coming up due in the next 2 or 3 days. So you're going to get a notification. There's other things like of this nature, which are system generated notifications that relate to the product and the features of the product in itself. But the second subcategory of the system generated notifications is things that we want to communicate with you as folks who run the company. We want to reach out to you, you not specifically, but you as a user in the system, and share a new feature release that we released. There's a new feature that we released either on a mobile app or the web app, or like in most cases on both. We want to share that with you. So we created a new type, we added support for a new type of notification. And let me show you one of them here, right? Yep. So courses, like this is one of them. I'm going to click this. Oops. I'm going to click this here. So this is, one of the courses that we've published. It's $4.99, and you can check out the description of the course. You can go to a preview. You can play the preview. Let me play it for a second. Yep. Yeah, it probably doesn't pick up the audio, but you'll hear the audio when you actually go use the app. So that's the preview, right? So that's a course. It's got some descriptions. We have one or two or more pages in a carousel. That's a course that's there. So whether it's our course or courses somebody else created and published on our platform, we communicate that to the end user. So as a course creator, that you'd be happy to know that, because this is a way for us to reach out to our community to sort of market, the courses that you created. That's one way to use that notification. Let's go with new features. There's other subcategory of the notification is new features. Actually, let me go to a different new feature. This one says scheduler allows you to plan, organize, and allocate time, blah, blah, blah. This is a new feature that we published, or an existing feature that we want to communicate to you because we made some improvements, right? So we use this. You can click here. It tells you there's an image and there's a description, a title, and there's a couple of pages. This one talks about system events and standalone events. These are not notifications. This is a feature. This is a feature that we have in our product, which has to do with calendars and standalone events. Now you can go look this up, and you can click demo, and you can play the video here. And again, it's going to likely have audio, and it walks you through using this feature. Now, at least as a user, before you use the feature, you know exactly what this is all about. How do you use the feature? What is a new feature, etc. So we socialize that with you, right? That's one way to leverage these notifications. Now, the third way that we've used recently is, let's scroll here. As you probably know, we do a lot of podcasts, solo podcasts, technical podcasts. A majority of them are technical. Some are solo. Some we also collaborate with interested parties who who become a guest on our podcast. So if you are an expert in something in whatever it is that you do that relates to software or the business of running a company, we would be more than happy to host you as a podcast. Hit us up, and then we can facilitate that. Once we do that, we publish the podcast. We do a number of different steps. The team gets to work, and the podcast becomes available on on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and a number of different platforms, including our documentation pages and whatnot. In addition to all of that, we also publish that as a notification. So you can go here. So this is like, say I go to one of those, right? Let's say I go to, it doesn't matter which one I pick. I'm going to pick a recent podcast notification. Yep. So Andy, CEO of Accelerants, we met with them recently or not too long ago. We talked about offshoring and building globally distributed teams. It made for a very interesting podcast. Now we publish the podcast here. Now, when we publish these notifications, usually the first page literally talks about the guest, but we also have at least two pages where one of it is a solo podcast like this one, and then the first page in the carousel, is essentially the actual collaborative podcast. Just a format that we follow. And then you can click preview here, and you can actually see Andy. I'm going to play it for a second or so. It's not going to pick up audio, but you can, it gives you the idea, right? And then if you go to the next page here, I go to the next page and I hit preview. This is going to be, I guess this is me doing the podcast talking about, I think this one is about layoffs and, how you possibly could deal with, layoffs, and so on and so forth. So that's a feature, right? So you get the general gist of, what this feature is. Now, how do you design something like this? Let's talk about that. So whatever it is that you build, if you're a product company, you want to make it as generic as possible without over engineering it. And that there's a fine line there. Sometimes you could make it so generic that actually you end up over engineering the problem and the solution. Then it ends up taking a lot more time than it should, a lot more money, and it's not necessarily productive or useful. So you have to find that balance as a team. What is it that I'm trying to build? How generic can I make it? How generic is it worthwhile for me to do? Because let me not over genericize it, uh, uh, assuming manufactured problems. So with that said, here, we have an image. However you create that image is up to you. We have, an icon here. There's a title and there's a description. There is a button. There's a title on the button. There's a glyphicon, an icon on the button. There's a carousel. This is 2 pages. Again, it could be any number of pages. You could have built this as not a carousel, but that becomes less flexible. It's quite easy to make it a carousel, even if it's 1 page. So why not just do it? Because then you can add more pages down the road. So those are decisions you make upfront that's going to end up saving you a ton of time, effort, and money in the long run. Make this feature scalable. So scalability is not just scalability in terms of system scalability, like how many users are using it, how fast do your pages return, response times, and whatnot. That is sure scalability, the most common usage of it. But ask yourself, no matter what it is that you do, whether your process is scalable, whether your team is scalable, whether your methodologies is scalable, whether your feature implementation is scalable, whether your design and architecture, whether those are scalable, right? So it's a key thing to ask all the time. So again, so you have a carousel, you have number of these things, components that make up this mobile page. And now when you click preview, you're going to show a video. Where should that video be hosted? It needs to be public. Most likely, right? There's no reason to not make it public, or you have to go further. It gets more complicated if you don't make it public and make it only available to the users of your system. There really is no good reason doing that. So it's okay. The video should really be public so anybody can watch it. So you use a public video, you have a player, you have the video, come into picture here, right? So this is a web view, as you can tell on this app. So it plays the video. These are the basic constructs or tenets of this particular feature. Now once you've done this, now we're using the same feature for, like I mentioned to you, right, for system notifications. uh, uh, well, let's ignore user notifications for a second. Within system notifications, we mentioned multiple categories: course notifications, podcast notifications, new feature notifications. For all of them, we are able to use the same template and the implementation. So that's where you have to design for it to be generic. It doesn't happen, trust me, it doesn't happen magically. And then when you want to publish this, obviously you don't make code changes every time a new system notification comes into play. How do you do with this? We have a way. So we have a JSON that sits on S3. All the content creator creates the content, the videos, the images, the text, and then they make it available on all of these different third-party platforms that we integrate with. Once they do that, they update the JSON that comes into play here. So the JSON, I should have pulled it up here. Maybe I'll do it the next time. It's an S3. That JSON actually has a structure. It took a couple of iterations, more than a couple, to iron out the actual structure of the JSON. But now we have it, so it's actually quite good because it's very generic. It supports a number of notifications that we do have. So once those assets are created, the images, text, the video, the content creator goes and updates the JSON, uploads that onto S3, boom, and it's done. The cron, we have a cron that's set up that's looking for these types of notifications. That is another component, which is the cron job, obviously. It picks up the cron, runs at a certain time. And if there is a new notification, because the JSON keeps getting updated, so you don't want to get notified like 10 times for the same piece of content, right? You're going to be quite mad, obviously, as you should be. So it has some intelligence and smarts built into the logic where it knows whether this notification has been sent. Now, you might think, hey, it's a new notification, so let me send it to everybody. How difficult can that be? It's not. Trust me, there's a lot of nuances there. But where it gets trickier is the notifications have been sent out for this podcast, but a new user downloads the app 30 minutes after the notifications were sent out. What happens then? Do they get the same notification? When do they get it? And when they get that notification, does everybody else get the same notification? Of course not, right? It doesn't make any sense. So only the new user is going to get the new notification because the other existing users, have already gotten the notification for this particular podcast or this particular new feature. So those are all the types of design / architecture, also implementation decisions that you need to make when you implement a feature. If you do it well, good enough the first time, you don't have to ever revisit it for a long time. I wouldn't say forever because things always are bound to change, but at least you don't have to revisit it ever so frequently, because there's a cost of fixing bugs, implementing, redeploying, etc. Yada yada yada. So do it as well as you can at the get go when you get started, and that's why experience and the skills and the skill sets and of your team come into play, right? Everybody can do the same thing given all of the resources and all possible money and time available in the world. But that the reality of the situation is that's not the case, so which means you have limited amount of money, limited resources to getting this done, and limited amount of time. How well can you do whatever it is that you're getting done in that period of time with that small number of resources, uh, and do it as best as you can, so it looks as professional as this does. That's what separates good teams from the not so good teams, right? So we talked about the product features and design. Last but not least, at Snowpal, one of the things we also do is do managed services. So we help other clients realize their dreams, much like we help ourselves realize our dreams. It's one of the things we do. We are a product company, but we also do consulting as one of the many things we do to pay our bills, for for lack of using euphemisms there, right? So if you are looking to do something that's APIs, web apps, mobile apps, certainly reach out to us. If we've done it, we'll tell you we've done it. If we've not, but we can, we'll tell you. If we've neither done it nor do we think we have the skills to do it, which is pretty unlikely, but there are cases where it happens. We'll certainly let you know as well. I think that's basically it for this podcast. Definitely download our app. Go to products.snowpal.com to check out all of our other offerings like APIs and web apps and podcasts and education platform and whatnot, right? That's about it. Talk to you soon. Thanks.